Good morning, students. Having discussed about process synchronization and the synchronization tool semaphore, now let us discuss about the classical problems of synchronization. Here we shall discuss three classical problems of synchronization, that is bounded buffer, reader-writer problem and dining philosopher problem. Bounded buffer problem is similar to the producer-consumer problem that we addressed in the start of the chapter. Now let us see the solution of semaphore to the same problem. So these are some of the variables or data structure that is defined. We have the integer n that says the number of buffer, each buffer capable of holding one item. We have a mutex, which is a binary semaphore which ensures mutual exclusion. I think when we had discussed about the semaphore also, we had discussed about your mutex. So it can take a value either a 0 or 1 and it ensures mutual exclusion among the processes. The next two that we have is a counting semaphore, which we have is your empty and full, which is initialized to n and full is initialized to 0. Empty is used to count the number of empty buffers and full is used to count the number of full buffers by the producer and the consumer. Now let us look up to the code of your producer and consumer. Now this is your code for the producer, where we are using the wait signal. If you remember, what was the operation of wait and signal semaphore? Let me again reintroduce it to you. Here you can see the semaphore in wait. We are decrementing the semaphore S, and in signal we are incrementing the semaphore S. Having said that, now let us look back to your producer process code. Now I have just got the glimpse of the initial values. As seen in the previous slide, full is 0, empty is n and mutex is 1. It can take a value either 0 or 1. Now if the producer wants to add an item to the buffer, it is going to call the wait semaphore. So when it is calling the wait semaphore, it is decrementing the n. So if there are n buffers empty, now if it has produced one item, now there is n minus 1 buffers that is empty. The producer process also calls the wait mutex, which ensures that only the producer process is acting on the buffer and no other process is allowed to act on the buffer. So after it calls the wait mutex, it is allowed to add the item to the buffer. So once it has completed adding the item to the buffer, it again signals the mutex. So what happens here when I call wait mutex? 1 is decremented to 0. So let me give back the values here. So what happens? Empty, I am taking it as E becomes n minus 1. Previously if there were 5 buffers, that was full. Now there will be 4 buffers that is full, and mutex I am calling it as m, and now m will be 0 because the producer process is using it. And you can see when it is living, it is also calling it is also signaling the full. So full that was 0 now becomes 1 because one item is added to the buffer. Now in context, let us see what is happening in the consumer process. So now this will be the input to your consumer process. Now in the consumer process, you can see there was one item that was added. So now the full is 1. Empty is n minus 1 because one of the item is added. Now the mutex is again 1, allowing the consumer process to use the buffer. Now when consumer process starts to use the buffer, it first calls wait of full so that the item that is produced shall be consumed by the consumer. Now the value of full again becomes 0. Now again it is taking the mutex, it is making the mutex 0, indicating that no other process shall be allowed to act upon the buffer. So once the consumer has completed the consumption of the process, So once the process has completed the consumption, now it again signals the mutex, so the mutex value become 1, and now again it is signaling the empty. Now the empty again comes back to n. So once the consumer has completed consuming, it allows it signals mutex, indicating any other process or the producer process interested to use the buffer may use. It is again after it is consumed the one item that is produced by the producer, it signals the producer that n buffers are now empty. So we had already seen the issues that was there with the producer and the consumer process. Without this mutual exclusion and allowing one process to complete the execution, which we can see is resolved to a certain extent. The next classical synchronization problem we have is the reader-writer problem. Now, what is the reader-writer problem? We have a set of process which can be categorized either to a reader process or to a writer process. What is a reader process? A reader process is one that reads the data. The writer process is one that can read and also manipulate or change the data. Now, here, if there are multiple reader processes given access to the shared data, it is certainly harmless because there is no change made to the data. All the process is just viewing the data without manipulating the data. But the same does not hold good for a writer process. We cannot allow more than one process to be allowed, more than one writer process to be allowed on the shared data at the same time, because the writer process is manipulating the data. If we allow more than one process to manipulate the data at the same time, we may again end up with data inconsistency issues. Now let us see what is the semaphore solution for the reader-writer problem. Now we have the three So the shared data that we have is the read-write mutex, and the other one is the mutex that ensure mutual exclusion, and we also have another integer variable reader count that counts the number of readers. Now let us look into the algorithm. Now this is the writer process algorithm. As said earlier, if a writer process wish to write, we must ensure that there is only one process that is writing. So we are using the wait and signal. So whenever the writer process wants to write or manipulate the shared data, it is running the wait of read-write mutex. So once it is running the wait of read-write mutex, until it releases or it unlocks, no other writer can be writing. So if process 1 is wanting to write, or process 1 is acting as a writer process, the process 1 runs the wait read-write mutex. So once it completes the execution, it runs signal read-write mutex. So until it runs signal read-write mutex, if there is another writer, say P2, which is interested to write, it has to wait until it signals the read-write mutex. So this ensures that only one process is writing at a time. The next thing that we now let us see the reader process algorithm. Now, if there are, as we discussed earlier, in case of reader process, there can be many processes, many reader processes that can be simultaneously running on a shared data. That is, if there is more than one reader process trying to access the shared data, it can be allowed because it is not manipulating the shared data. Now, we are using all the three variables in this algorithm. We are using the wait mutex to ensure that the read counter value is manipulated by only one reader process at a time. Because multiple processes are given access, we make sure that one process at a time is changing this value. So for the first time, when the read count is initially 0, and when the first process, say process P1, tries to enter the shared or tries to access the shared data, now the read count is 1. If the read count is 1, it also runs the wait read write mutex. This statement is run and the signal is only for the first and the last process. It is only for this process P1 or any other last process that is leaving the shared data. Now again I am running signal mutex, indicating if there is any other process that is trying to access the shared data, it can do so. Now if there is another process, say process P2, that tries to enter, so again process P2 also runs the wait mutex. It increments the counter to 2. Again it signals for any other process to enter, and it can perform the reading. You can notice here the process 2 is not executing this if read count is equal to 1. Now again, while leaving, I am again changing the read count value, or I am decrementing the read count value. When I am decrementing the read count value also, to ensure only one process at a time is working on the variable read count or is decrementing the variable read count, I am using the mutex semaphore. So again I am running the wait mutex, manipulating the read count or decrementing the read count, and then again I am signaling the mutex. And if read count is equal to 0, this statement will be run if that is the last process in the system, or that is the last process that will be accessing the shared memory. So this is about your reader process. So reader process can be, many reader process can be simultaneously accessing the shared memory, and also it is keeping a count of the number of reader process accessing the shared memory. Whenever it is making a count of the number of process, it is running the mutex semaphore to make sure only one process at a time is acting on that variable. Now the next problem that we have is your dining philosopher. The other small thing that we'll have to discuss about your reader writer problem is some of the variations the solutions can have. One of the variation is we make sure that no reader process is kept waiting until if there is some writer process that is there. Now let me give you an example. I say there are three processes, P1, P2 and P3. Now if P1 and P2 is categorized to be the reader process and if P3 is categorized to be the writer process. Now when all three process wants to access the shared memory, can we give the access to all the three process? Certainly not, because one of the three processes is a writer process. So now what we do is we shall put the process 1 and process 2 into the waiting, and we give access to the process 3, that is the writer process, to have an exclusive semaphore lock, and it is going to write. So until it completes the writing operation, it does not allow any other process, not even the reader process. Or to just even more elaborate it, if I have another process P4 and if process P3 and P4 also wants to write, one of this process gets a chance to write. Now if there is no process that is trying to modify the shared data, immediately we could give access to process P1 and P2. There is also another solution to this where it uses locks. To be very specific, Unix system programming has a concept of locks. So it has something called as the reader lock and writer lock, which uses the same concept. If there are more than one process that is willing to read the shared data, it can apply a reader lock. When there is a reader lock, it allows another reader process willing to read the shared data. But when there is a reader lock and if there is a request from another process to write, it shall deny. And in contrast, we also have the writer lock. So the writer lock is also called as an exclusive lock. When there is a writer lock applied, there is only one process that is allowed to write to the shared data. If there is another reader process or writer process trying to access the shared data, it shall be denied. So the reader lock is also called as shared lock, whereas the writer lock is called as an exclusive lock. The next and the last classic problem that we have is your dining philosopher problem. Now what is dining philosopher? First let us address to what is dining philosopher problem. Later we shall see how this dining philosopher problem could be related to the system. Now you can notice in this image that there are 5 philosophers sitting in a circular table with 5 chopsticks around, and there is a rice bowl that is in the center. Now what is the dining philosopher's problem tells? There are 5 philosophers. These 5 philosophers can be doing one of these jobs. Either they are thinking or they are eating. Now, if a philosopher wants to eat, he needs 2 chopsticks. But you can see in the image here, there are only 5 chopsticks available. If I have to say if there was a requirement of sufficient chopsticks, then for 5 philosophers I should have had 10 chopsticks. But here you can see in the image 5 philosophers are given only 5 chopsticks. So the philosophers shall be sharing the chopsticks. Now there are some rules to this problem. What are the rules that it tells? If a philosopher, say he is philosopher 1, if a philosopher 1 wants to eat, he should be picking the chopsticks that is closest to him. And obviously he cannot pick the chopstick that is already in the hands of the neighboring philosophers. And the philosopher can eat only if he has both the chopsticks. Having said these rules, now let us see to the solution. So the philosopher is picking the chopstick using the weight semaphore, and he is releasing the chopstick using the signal semaphore. So the philosopher needs both the chopsticks to eat. Once the philosopher gains access to both the chopsticks, only then he can begin eating, and after he has completed eating, he has to release both the chopsticks. Now this is the solution that we were talking about. It runs the weight chopsticks. As I told, it needs 2 chopsticks and 2 chopsticks that is close to it. So if I is equal to 1, it needs I1, chopstick 1 and chopstick 2 that is close to that. If it gets both the chopsticks, then it is allowed to eat. After it has completed eating, it releases the chopsticks using the signal. So it releases both the chopsticks, and now the philosopher goes to the thinking state. Now, is the algorithmic solution given here fair enough? Is this sufficient? Certainly not. Now, let us think about a situation. What if all the 5 philosophers are hungry at the same time? And what if all 5 philosophers pick up 1 chopstick? It ends up in an infinite deadlock. What happens is, all the 5 philosophers are hungry, all the 5 philosophers have picked up a chopstick, and they are indefinitely waiting for another chopstick. So because the other philosophers are also hungry, they would also not release the chopstick. All of them are in an indefinite wait, which eventually leads to deadlock. So what are some of the solutions for handling the deadlock? One of the solution tells, rather than having 5 philosophers, we could allow 4 philosophers to be sitting in the table with 5 chopsticks. So in this case, what happens? If there are 4 philosophers and all 4 philosophers are simultaneously hungry, and if all philosophers happen to pick up one chopstick, even then there would be one philosopher who can get 2 chopsticks. After the philosopher has completed eating, he would release the 2 chopsticks so that it can be used by the other neighboring philosophers, which would not end up in a deadlock situation at least. There could be a little starvation or wait, but there is no deadlock. The other solution it tells is, the philosopher shall pick up a chopstick only if both the chopsticks are available, else it is better not to pick up the chopstick. Because if a philosopher is just holding one chopstick doing nothing productive, he is wasting the chopstick as well as he is not doing anything as well. So it is better to pick up if both the resources are available. The last one, it tells, odd number of philosophers pick the left chopstick and then the right chopstick. Even number of philosophers pick up the right chopstick first and then the left chopstick. These are some of the solutions to handle the deadlock. We will further see how this is a semaphore solution that is given to the dining philosopher problem. We will again revisit the dining philosopher problem with the solutions by the monitors as well. Now, when I started the discussion of dining philosopher problem, I said, how could this be related to the system? It is the same here. There are several resources and several processes. If I call the processes to be the philosophers and resources to be the chopsticks, the processors will be here in the dining philosopher problem. The philosophers shared the chopstick. Here the processors have to share the resources. If a process is holding a resource doing nothing, it is wasting the resources. Rather, if the process picks up the resources only if it is available, we could be coming up with a deadlock free and starvation free solution. The next concept that we have is about your monitors. The monitors is similar to your semaphore. It is also a synchronization tool, but it is even more convenient and effective than compared to your semaphore. Now, what was the problem in semaphore that led to another synchronization tool called monitors? These are some of the problems with the semaphores. That is, the incorrect usage of the semaphore operation. You can see here, there are 3 cases that is defined. What if the semaphore operation of signal and wait is used like in these 3 cases? The first case that we have is, in a usual semaphore, we first run the wait mutex and then we run the signal mutex. What if that is reversed? What if signal mutex is run first and then if the wait mutex is run, what happens? The mutual exclusion is violated. you are allowing other processes to enter the critical section. If we take another case where we are running only the wait mutex both the time, what happens? It may end up in a deadlock. That is, a process is run a wait mutex and it has not released the critical section. It is continuously holding the critical section and there are other processes that is waiting to enter the critical section. Or the last scenario, where if wait mutex or signal mutex is omitted, if one of it is omitted also, it may lead to your deadlock issues. Either of these three cases, that is incorrect use of semaphore operation, that is the placement of your wait and signal is not right, or wait and signal is not used properly, that is only wait is used or only signal is used, or if one of the operations is omitted, this may lead to deadlock or starvation. Hence, we have come up with another synchronization tool, that is monitor. Now, what is monitor? How does a monitor look like? Here is an abstract data type that is given. We use the keyword monitor and then we give the monitor name, and inside monitor we define a set of programmer defined operations or procedures. Now, these procedures that is defined within the monitor can access only those variables that are locally declared within the monitor and its formal parameters. And the local variable of monitor can be accessed only by that local procedure as well. Now let us take a schematic view of the same. You can see this is a monitor. It has a shared data and a set of operations to ensure mutual exclusion within the monitor. Now, to allow a process to wait within the monitor, we need something called as condition variable. And also to mention, only one process at a time can be active within the monitor. Now, what is this condition variable? For example, if I have declared the condition variable x and y, these condition variable can perform only two operations, that is wait and signal. A process that invokes a wait would be suspended until it again invokes the signal. The operation of wait and signal is same as your semaphore, but monitors attach that operation with condition variables, which brings in more, it is even more an effective way of handling the process synchronization. Probably you will understand this when we would address to some of the examples of your monitors. As I told it to you earlier, we will be revisiting your dining philosopher problem with the monitor's solution. This is an illustration of using the condition variable associated with the x and y. You can see the cues associated with the x and y. Now, what are the things that can happen on the condition variable? If a process P invokes a condition variable x of signal and process Q is suspended in x of wait, it can happen in either of these two options. that is signal and wait or signal and continue. As discussed earlier, only one of the process can be active at a time. It can be either P or Q but not both. One of it will be active, the other have to wait.